Welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Powercast. I'm your host N64 Josh, and today's topic is we're looking back at Mario Strikers and what went wrong with Strikers. This is the 1 year anniversary of the game releasing. And so I want to jump in. I want to see what do you guys think? We're doing this live all over the place: YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. You guys are welcome to come hang out. I guess we're gonna do 6 days a week. Who knows? Maybe we'll do 7. I really enjoy these live shows quite a bit. I love getting the feedback from you guys, and so I see some people are just now jumping in. I see Silver Gun. What is going on? How are you? I see I see Nate is here, and Becca and Servant. I see a sub from Servant. Thank you so much for that resub. I do appreciate it over on Twitch. And so I've kind of been scouring the web a little bit, just looking at different articles, looking at the even looking at the Metacritic, thinking about, like, you know, how did Aces do versus Super Rush, and then how did Strikers do versus both those games, and I think, I mean, the resounding answer is lack of content, right? But the reason I thought this was kind of an interesting discussion is this is not much less of a game than like what we had on GameCube. In fact, there's probably more to it than that. But I noticed a lot of people that played Charged didn't care for League nearly as much either. And so I see Parky is here and Car Gaming. Welcome on in, everybody. I know more people will be kind of just showing up periodically, and we're gonna jump in. I'm gonna start over on Reddit. Okay, this is from a year ago, and it says Mario Strikers is a huge disappointment. We're on our Nintendo, and it says Mario Strikers Charged was my favorite game, probably overall best game on the Wii, due to the amazing gameplay and actual very difficult AI. However, League is another story completely, and I would not advise spending $60 on an inferior version of a decade-old game for the Wii. The new one for the Switch has changed up mechanics and team structure, which I'm not too happy about. Uh, what I'm not too happy with, but are understandable. But there are major features that were removed for no reason or reduced. And this has been this is probably the most common thing with any of these sports titles recently, is that Nintendo is just hasn't put back features that have been in previous games. And that's probably the most what raises my eyebrows the most. It makes me ask the question, like, why? Okay, so they note in the post here on Reddit, says arenas, there are no arena effects. This is a head scratching decision. Charged had a large variety of arenas that drastically affected how the game played out. For instance, Crystal Canyon, which would remove players from both teams, and normal arenas for people who don't like them. But in League, there are no arena effects at all. It's strictly aesthetic. Strange, right? When we look at games like Super Rush, why there's a number of things, and I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit throughout the last week as we've looked at different games launching and stuff. Super Rush is missing two huge, in my opinion, two huge features. One, the tournament mode. In order for us to have a tournament, I have to basically manually do everything, and everybody has to submit scores, and we have to go about it that way. In what was it? World Tour, I think it's what it was. Mario Golf or Toadstools Tour. That was the GameCube. I can't remember. Maybe you guys in chat remember but the one that was on 3DS. That had a tournament mode where I could say, yo, we have an NPC tournament. If you want to play, jump in, play at your own time. Everybody ends up playing against each other, and we get to see who wins that week. And that was fun. That was great. It was very low, like easy to do. Now we've done some in Super Rush, and I'm like, guys, take a screenshot, post them in the Discord. We'll look at everybody's shots, and it's not nearly as user friendly. It's not as easy to do, and that makes it a little bit frustrating. Why is something like that missing when that the asynchronous tournaments that were in was it called World Tour? I'm gonna I got the Google machine right here. So let's see. Mario Golf. Yeah, World Tour. That was the DS game. So just strange that element was missing. Another really fun element of World Tour was they had licensed gear. You could play with Callaway gear and Titleist. Okay, maybe the license stuff doesn't come back over. That's fine. But one of the things that made it so great is that I could make my golfer look exactly uh like I could make my golfer Nintendo 64 themed or Super Nintendo themed or NES themed. And that was visor, shirt, pants, the whole deal. And all of those had different effects on stats as well. It made the game worth playing to continue earning stuff to buy gear that separated you from what everybody, you could choose a 64 hat and an NES shirt if you wanted. So people didn't look the same. They were just it's I know it may sound minor talking about it, but it gave you reason to keep grinding, keep unlocking things, to keep going back and seeing what else you get. They had goofy stuff. I think you could wear a cheap on your head or a blooper. Like I'd have to go back and look exactly, but there were so many like there were so many different customization options. And that's lacking. That's lacking in these current games. And why do I bring this up again? We've talked about it at nauseum on the on NPC with the crew. But part of me is a little bit it's concerning because these titles, I think a lot of us know and love and would want to go back and play them and be able to play together as a community and do those tournaments and that kind of thing. And Nintendo releases these games that are not complete, very thin on content. Then if they don't hit the sales numbers, the projections that they're hoping, does that mean these series end up going away? And not only that, what does it do to the fan base that's like so the next sports title comes out like Strikers almost feels like the nail in the coffin. Like Aces was a pretty full package, albeit it could have used more customization options, no question. And maybe even some me support and customization characters that way, because that's what it was. In the Mario Golf World Tour, you were customizing your me, and that was kind of fun. And most people use their me because you could get that character much more powerful than Mario or Wario or Bowser or anything like that. And so you'd play your tours like that, but then you still had the option just to jump in with the original cast and play the game that way. And there were certain things you had to do to unlock certain characters. They weren't just all available to us. And then again, that added to the overall longevity of the game and making it fun. When they're looking at these sales numbers for these games, what's going to happen? Are we going to see another run of Mario sports titles? And if so, what are the fans going to do? Are we going to just blindly open our wallets to these things? And Strikers is very interesting because it's not that it isn't fun. The core gameplay loop and mechanics are fun. But I think part of what makes it takes away from that fun is in some cases, I know some people think it's a little too difficult as far as like trying to remember all the different button combinations. It's an extensive tutorial. And if you don't stick with that game for a while, you're not going to remember certain things. Now, I don't know that necessarily takes away for the fun for me, because all that stuff could potentially create a nice skill gap if you want to spend time learning it. But is there reason to? Is there reason to jump in and really learn these things? All right. Jumping back over to the Reddit article, and then I'm going to get some of your guys' chats as well. So feel free to put your comments in the chat. We'll get them up on the screen to keep the conversation moving. Items. There's a variety of items in comparison to Charged. The Chain Chomp, 3 sets of items, bombs, freezing items are all gone. On top of that, you gain access to the star when you are down by only 1 point. The worst part of this is the removed signature items. Remember being scared You guys get the idea. When the music changed up and you found yourself against a 30-foot tall Luigi, or burning your opponent's entire team with Bowser, none of that is in the new game. There are no signature power ups. Again, that's a bummer. Skill shots. All skill shots are now are mega strikes, and all the mega strikes are fundamentally the same. Some of your characters can't even use mega strikes. No variety in dribbles. Wario can no longer smash opponents into the ground while yelling butt smash, and now can only do a goofy hop. Enough said. On opinion level, says I think the intros in Celebration are much less intense than they were in the Charged version, which is quite sad. Luigi became my favorite Mario character because of the character they gave him in Charged. Now it all feels toned down. One-timers being less epic is the biggest problem that I have with the no charging the ball change. And then it says if you're a fan of Charged, you probably will be severely disappointed with League. So I'm gonna jump over and grab some of your guys' thoughts over here, and we'll just take a look. Take a look at what some of you guys have to say, because I'm very, very curious, honestly. So let's see. Servant says, I haven't played a sports title since GameCube, but I feel like the couch co-op missing hurts the enjoyment of sports fighting games. Well, that's the thing. With Strikers in particular, couch co-op, when the NPC crew got together for episode 400 and we all played together, some of the most fun we've had on the Switch, right? Strikers was a game that we had an incredible time playing together. Where it lacks, and if you get into the first comment here on the Reddit thread, it says, honestly, the fact that there's no 4v4 mode is a shame. Why can't I get on my Switch and join my 3 friends on their Switches? It blows my mind. That's a mode that should have been there. Like, the fact that we can't go 4v4 online, I don't understand. I know Nintendo has struggled with the online for Switch. We know that newer infrastructure is supposed to be there and it's supposed to be improved. And you've got companies like Capcom that, they make Monster Hunter run smoothly online, virtually no hiccups. Mario Kart, I mean, it's great. It does have the netcode issues for sure, and sometimes we can see things going on that are like not actually happening in the game, and that's frustrating. But we don't usually deal with too much lag. But then you have a simple game like Mario Maker, and they can't get the four characters to not lag, and that's crazy. That's wild that is the case, honestly. So, getting a few more comments here. Nate says, I don't think these fast sports games or these past sports games. Ooh, I don't think these. He always hits me with these typos. I think he does it on purpose at this point. He wants me to guess what he's saying. They just definitely don't hit the same online. This was couch awesomeness for me, and it really was. It really, really was. The first time I played Strikers, such an incredible experience, and it wasn't until like 2019. That was the first time I played Strikers on GameCube, and I was like, I'm angry that I missed out on this, right? And that same charm is still available in Strikers Battle League, but in modern gaming, we need a reason to go back. I know firsthand, Nate plays Rocket League, right? Rocket League has incredible gameplay. It's cars, it's soccer, there's cool camera angles, like it's a good time. But you throw a battle pass in there, and all of a sudden, now you got something that you're playing to earn things. With Strikers, it just felt like, here's the GameCube game, essentially. Like kind of the almost like the article says on Reddit here, like a dumbed down version of Charged, which would essentially be the GameCube game, right? And have fun, just play. And it's like, no. I want we don't need battle passes for every game. They don't need to make these games live service games. They could, I'd be okay with it, especially sports games, right? But if they're not, At the very least, give me a reason to play 100 matches. Allow me to unlock something that only is available after 100 matches, 200 matches, X amount of goals. Give me reason. Dangle that fruit. Give me something that's like there's a reason to keep going. Gold Mario, different characters. That's how World Tour was. I'm looking over at TikTok right now and it says the one thing I hate about the newest Strikers is how to unlock gear once you beat all the cups. You barely earn coins after the first victory, and it gets repetitive playing the same cup to unlock the new stuff. Yeah, it's not a good loop, right? It's not a good loop for the gamer. And it's part of the reason it went wrong. And it's the most frustrating thing is that the core gameplay mechanics are fun, albeit a little difficult if you want to learn everything. And so they have this incredible foundation and then don't do anything with it. And that's what's that's the hard pill to swallow. So Servant says Nintendo makes an inferior sports game that doesn't sell, so they use the justification to not make more titles. Maybe it's Nintendo using market reaction to justify an internal desired position. And that could be the case. And I saw some people saying, this wouldn't have happened with Iwata. That he wouldn't have allowed these kind of games to release like this. And that could be true. That could be true. Maybe Reggie would have made sure that there was a little more meat and potatoes to these games. Servant says Nadine loves to yell butt smash just like Wario. I love it. Silvergun RG game is dead. Haven't touched it since weeks after its release. Not that it wasn't a bad game. Wasn't as fun as the GameCube version. And where I've had the most fun on the couch with people, my nephew, he was like, we played it. He loved it. I got it for him for his birthday. I don't know if he still plays it. I'd have to find out. But, the smile on his face when he got it for his birthday, he was like, I got everything I wanted. And Strikers was on that list, right? And so there's some fun to be had. But in modern gaming where we're at now, they just were a little lazy with it, unfortunately. Who's Kyle says, it wasn't terrible when I played the demo, but not super engaging either. And I'm curious if Kyle played Strikers on the Wii. Nate says, I also think the fields were way too small. And I saw some, as I was going through comments and some different message boards and things like that, I was seeing similar, I was seeing similar issues, Silvergun says, could have used a better device, advertised well, maybe it could do better. Maybe it wasn't released at the right time. I think it was just the thin content, honestly. I think I think that's really what it boils down to. I think when it comes to these sports games, they need to take a look at like what is going on. And I'm not saying that EA is the best example, right? Or even like the MLB the Show, because I do believe there are some predatory practices that take place in those games. But there's also so many different game modes. Like, for instance, I play Home Run Derby all the time with my dad on MLB the Show. That's all we play. Well, could there be some mini games? Like, and if you think about Aces had like these different, like very, very Nintendo style game modes for Aces where like, piranha plants were spitting the ball at you and you were just trying to send them back. It seems like in Strikers, there could have been mini games where you're just seeing how many goals you can get, just you versus the goalie in more of a third person, maybe behind the character mode, right? Just to kind of mix the things up. And I don't know soccer very well, but I know there are some different ways I think they do tiebreakers and different things like that. Like it would be kind of fun to see like I know there's times where you see all the characters lined up and then they're trying to kick the ball into the goal. Like I would love to see Bowser and Donkey Kong and the Shy Guy all having to stand next to each other as that stuff's taking place. Just to add a little more depth, a little more variety, you know? And this game was lacking that. And it is just such a bummer because it the core gameplay was there. Next Level knocked it out of the park with the core gameplay. Let's take a look too about like the post launch. This is from Game Rant. It says Mario Strikers Battle League is the worst example of Nintendo's post launch support formula. It says Nintendo's recent sport games have had some glaring support issues, and Strikers may be the worst offender of all. And I think really the gist of the interview here and what makes it the worst out of all of them is the fact that the game came out not only thin on game modes, but thin on characters. And they basically were like, yo, let's hold it seems like, as the consumer, that they held a bunch of characters back and then kind of just drip fed essentially what should have been the whole roster to begin with, and then just walked away from the game completely. And that's kind of the gist of the article here. It's just like they should have had more characters to begin with. Joe over on TikTok says, I enjoyed the Wii Strikers. I remember struggling to unlock PD and when I finally did it. And that kind of stuff's cool. Like where there's still characters in Mario Golf World Tour. I don't even know how to unlock them. I don't even know. I've got to go look up like you have to beat something a certain way and do whatever, and then that's how it will unlock. There were modes in World Tour that like there's a course that is so difficult. It's like the last course, you're kind of out in space. It's not easy. I still wasn't able to beat it. I enjoy that kind of stuff. There's a reason to go back. I remember like, a lot of times would play Mario Golf when I was on vacation, like at a cabin, and I'd sit out on the deck, and it was like I could hear the wind blowing. I would fire up Mario Golf, and it was just like it was so relaxing and just such a great time, and trying to beat that level over and over again, and doing really well up until like the last hole, and then everything fails and having to start over. Those are definitely challenging, but it's nice if I want to sink some time into a game. Give me those challenges. Servant asked the question: would Nintendo have better luck with American football or basketball game? I know soccer is huge internationally, but basketball is the number one played youth sport, and NFL is the number one watched sport. Yo, I'm here for it. We do if we had a Mario football game, I'm all about it. Like sign me up. Sign me up. I'm a huge Madden fan. I've played a little bit of Madden, like done some tournaments and stuff. Blitz was amazing. So if we took Mario and basically put it on like an NFL Blitz style game, I mean that would be perfect for me anyway. And as far as basketball, of course, we've had those games throughout the years. There's 3DS game. There's been numerous basketball games, and again, these sports titles are a very simple gameplay mechanic, and with enough unlockables and enough content there, and that Nintendo magic, they really can be something amazing. They really can be good. Silvergun says, the latest sports game I enjoyed but dropped weeks after as well was the newest Nintendo Switch Sports. Let's see, was the newest Nintendo Switch Sports. It was fun for a while, but even the game could have used more diversity. Yeah, it's just in some cases. In some cases, you look at like the Wii Sports, and then you look at Nintendo Switch Sports, and the gameplay mechanics weren't as fun. Bowling was more fun on Wii. It's still more fun on Wii, right? And it's just a bummer when the new game on the new console has the potential to be just as good, but I think they also worried about people throwing Joy-Cons through their television sets, so then they dumbed it down a little bit. Chill Factor says Mario NBA would be sick. They could use the Strikers formula combined with NBA Playgrounds. There you go. There you go. I'm here for it. NBA Playgrounds is a decent, yeah. NBA Playgrounds is a decent sports game, like Chill Factor saying. NFL Street was also a lot of fun, and that's probably would be more in line with what the Mario football game would be like. And I wonder, like, at this point, maybe going forward with Switch titles, with the sports titles, they need to be like the just the pack of sports games. You can play soccer on on the Mario Sports All Stars or whatever on 3DS, soccer, golf, horseback racing, baseball, and they're decent. They aren't fleshed out. There's not a ton of content there, but because they're all there and we could just like play against each other, at least it added some variety, right? But if you're gonna put out a $60 game, give us reason to keep going back. And it felt lazy that they just like, oh, we're just gonna throw some coins and you're gonna unlock these items. Like it, I want like the items in Strikers are, they help with the competitive aspect, and you can build a meta and all that kind of stuff. But give me more variety in the costumes. Let's change up the costumes. But they kind of made that impossible with the way that you're unlocking the pieces of gear. And so you know, maybe not the best choice to go that route. Albeit, I remember the conversations when they first showed the stuff. It looked cool, it looked fun, but it didn't turn out um it just didn't turn out that great. So, okay, moving on here. Servant says, Nadia Nay, I want NFL Street, but with Nintendo characters. I'm here for it. Servant also says, put sports games on Nintendo Switch Online, only make them with seasonal releases. I mean, if they put it on NSO, keep giving us reason to go back to it. Do we do battle passes at that point? Make it games as a service? Again, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm just not saying that that's the only way they should have to do it. No oversaturation means we won't get burnt out. It's true. Nate says, I think these need to be service if they're going to be lazy with it. Yeah, and I mean, you're not wrong, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't think about making them a live service game, but I know that not everybody wants to do that, and live service takes a lot of resources, a big team. And I almost feel like Nintendo would be better off to do a combined sports pack that had all the sports games and offer live service to that, to where it's like, play X amount of Mario Golf, play X amount of Strikers, play X amount of Aces, play X amount of Sluggers, play the baseball, play the football, and have that all tied to the live service. Again, that's a massive feat, right? That's no small feat. But I feel like something along those lines would probably keep people playing more than they are now, because what we're seeing from people in the chat is they had the game a week and they walked away from it. So Darius over on TikTok says we need more Mario sports games like Mario Hoops 5-on-5. The Mario Strikers Battle League. Is Mario Strikers Battle League going to get more DLC in 2023? No, I don't think so. I think they're completely done. Joshua over on TikTok says the fact that Daisy wasn't even a launch character is kind of sad, to be honest. It is. Chill Factor says, and I like this, says also Josh, whilst I agree Strikers was a light game and Nintendo could have done way more, it's one of my favorite Switch games. It's great fun online and couch co-op. No question. And I think we've said it throughout the show a few different times. The gameplay mechanics, like the gameplay is there. It is fun when Crawler and Johnny and Cheesy and I all sat in a room together and played Strikers. We laughed and we played. It was like one more game, one more game, one more game. Like we just kept going. Like it's a ton of fun. It's just the whole there's very little single player stuff. The fact that online is not very well implemented as far as like being able to do like 8 players total online. That's that that's what just leaves us kind of scratching our heads. Chill Factor also says even a bad Nintendo game is often pretty good compared to other publishers, and that's true. Hoffman says I'm all for AC football. Well, you know what? They have enough characters in that game that they could pull it off. And then Nate asks the question, or does Nintendo's multiplayer need to evolve a little? And I think that is the case. I don't know that sometimes I don't think that they're necessarily thinking about the community when they're putting the games together. As far as like, when you do these live service games, you live and die on the feedback of your community. And I don't think Nintendo is there yet. Nintendo is still very much the company that tells you what you're going to get. They're not going to ask what you want. And I think over time that it's going to have to change. I don't think there's any question there. I think it will have to change. I do want to take a look at the Metacritic score, you guys. It's a 73. Okay, 73 from critics. It's a 4.4 from users. Okay, let's take a look at the user review. And I assume this is out of 10. It's out of 10, a 4.4 out of 10. 231 negative reviews, 105 positive, and 73 mixed. So this is a 2 out of 10 from Doom. It says the solo mode takes 2 days to be done. Online mode is horrible. Only 2v2, no 4v4. 1 week later, still no fix. Still no communication from Nintendo. Will be a dead game very fast. Very sad because the game may have been fun. Jimmy says gameplay 9 out of 10, but everything else is missing. Where's the content? This needed another 12 months of development time and could have been great. Yeah, this is from Voldex. Says another bad Mario title sports game. It's pretty half. You guys get the point. With no content. Legit, we Nintendo fans already knows that they can do better. Do better, Nintendo. Show some love for sports games, especially if you're pricing the game at $60. The online system acts like it's in the 1980s still. I love that. Please upgrade your online system. A 0. No content, and the content present is really lacking. Every character only has to win and lose, has 2 win and lose animations. When in charge, they had around 6 each. Every character's themes all sound exactly the same, now making none of them stand out from each other. All the stages are the same. Nothing makes them different whatsoever, but only the looks, but is still really sad when compared to Charge, which came out in 2007 and still holds up. The game doesn't feel fun at all and feels way too comfortable or too uncomfortable and complex. Has too many new complicated mechanics, and the team tackle is hardly ever used. The new shooting mechanic sucks with the whole with the whole aiming with the left stick. I just don't like how they made that a thing in here, and it makes it feel so bad. 10 characters only and no sidekicks? The Hyper Orb should not have been a thing. There are no more special teams or special items that every character gets on their own. Edginess has been toned down extremely. If you guys look back at Strikers, Waluigi, like he was pretty wild in the first Strikers, doing animations that are very not Nintendo, but they were able to get away with in the early 2000s. So Cryptic says, I am glad you were covering this topic. There's so much to say. Let's see. This is from Silvergun. It says later this year in September or October during the Direct, if they don't have one in the summer, think they will release GameCube for Nintendo Switch Online. Something about it that I thought I want to release, but it's very popular depending on what they launch with it. I mean, what could make this relevant to this conversation is they could bring the original Strikers the to the Switch, and I think people would have more fun with it. But would they? Would they? I just talked about the way Waluigi is in that game. I don't know if they would. I don't know. It's a different time now. So Nate said the cutscenes with power shots got in the way of gameplay too. Momentum was messed up. I can see that being the case. I can see that being the case where it's like, you know, you're playing your game, all of a sudden somebody's doing this animation that kind of takes a while. Whereas like Aces had that, but it was done relatively quick. They didn't take too long. And you kind of had to be strategic with it. You know, Aces to me is still like I think it's a top-notch sports game. I've never thought too poorly of it. The campaign was okay, and I think a lot of people wanted more of a like RPG style game. So this is from Chill Factor 71. It says it's an interesting point. I never played the GameCube version, so maybe that's why I think the Switch version is awesome, but most people don't. And that could be the case. That could be if you have nothing to compare it to when it comes to the older games, it's Strikers is not a bad game from the gameplay perspective. You sit down on the couch and play this game with people, you're gonna have a good time. You are gonna have a good time. Cryptic says, I think for me, Nintendo's messaging was unclear for this game, and that that's what ultimately killed the game. This was the game everyone was waiting for, and the fact that they promised 4v4 online multiplayer with friends, but it ended up having so many unquality of life implementations was so heartbreaking. In my opinion, this is one of Nintendo's biggest disappointments in their history, and I can go on and on about this game. And I get it. It's sad to me. And honestly, guys, I want to as this topic came up, as I was searching through, today in Nintendo's history, and this game was released a year ago, I want to figure out a way for us to play this game again. And honestly, I want to essentially put together. There's the community is large enough that we could do like a monthly tournament, like a sports tournament, right? Where you could probably sign up for each of the sports games, and I'd throw Smash in the mix as well. It's just kind of like, like a contact sport, right? So we do Smash, Aces, Golf, and Strikers, and just have a day. I'll just have a day of streaming. People that are also streamers, I can go and I can bring up their streams. We can watch their tournaments taking place. And I think it would be I think it could be a lot of fun. Kind of like literally making a day out of just these Mario sports titles tournaments. I think it's very, very possible. The uh, again, it's just frustrating that I can't say to you guys, "Hey, we have an NPC tournament in Mario Golf. Go, let's everybody play each week, and we'll see who wins." And maybe we'll throw some eShop cards into the mix. Instead, it's very convoluted, and post your score in the Discord, and was this a real screenshot? Was it not? Are people cheating? Like there's no you get rid of all that. You don't have to deal with any of that when they place the tournaments for us in game. It just happens. It's just there. And I think it's like they have something that's so great, and we have no reason to keep playing it. And that's what that's where the frustration is. The getting back, this is a very long review that gave it a 0 out of 10. It says the stages are smaller in this game. They're purposely giving free DLC soon, but it's just straight up drip feeding us content to make the game last longer. But in reality, it just makes consumers unhappy. There's no campaign, and they decided to use small cams for the scenes in which they show the characters' animations, which makes it really, really boring. When in charge, they made it seem like they were actually being broadcasted, making it really exciting. Don't get me wrong, though, the animations and the looks of the game are so damn good, but sadly, it's very lacking in how much they actually made. I was extremely excited for this game. when this game was announced, and I absolutely love the Strikers games and pre-ordered this game as soon as it was available. And the game sadly did not live up to its name and what it's known for. So the another here's from Shadow of Zexa, 1 out of 10. They removed some of the best things from Strikers Charge: skill shots, character specific dodges, and Charge Soccer Ball. That's what made Charge so much better than the original Strikers on GameCube. This game feels like a heavy downgrade back to the GameCube version of the game, and it's very disappointing. And it makes me honestly want to play some of Charged, because I didn't spend much time with it at all, really. I did. I like I said, the GameCube game I adored, and hopefully this sends a message, right? Hopefully this kind of stuff sends a message to Nintendo, like you can't don't keep doing this to the point that you burn the bridges with those of us that are your biggest supporters. That's the thing I just don't want to see happen. And I hope we see another Strikers game, and I hope it's amazing. But where does Nintendo point the blame? Do they point it to the developers? Is it the higher ups? Is one of the things I've been hearing a lot recently is that games are no longer being made for us. They're being made for shareholders. And it's just all about getting the sale out. So it's like, here's what this game is. It's well-loved series. We're going to get good sales on it. Shareholders will be happy. We'll pad how much content the game has by just drip feeding what should have already been in the game, and then walk away from it. And that's what's a bummer. So Silvergun says maybe the next Strikers game will be on the next system or console later in its cycle, and hopefully that is the case. Hopefully we don't see Strikers Battle League Deluxe or something like that, unless they're gonna really Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, especially with the battle mode, showed us that they do listen and they will fix things. So even if it is a deluxe version, if they add enough to it to make it worth going back to, but it needs work. It really needs work. This is another this is an interesting review here. It says, "This is the year Nintendo will lose a lot of fans. First they effed up Mario Golf. Now they're looking for a quick cash grab with this title, and they know it'll sell well. But if they made a complete game, this is not a complete game. It lacks on all sides. Shame on you, Nintendo." There's passion, guys. It's one thing to see people be just, trolls and angry about certain things, but we want to play these games as a community and enjoy them as a community and make memories together. And when this happens, it's like it's just kind of like, come on, man. Come on. Cryptic right here says to Nate, "I was looking forward to this game so much, and I feel Nintendo has early online philosophies and is not keeping up with standards in the modern era." Servant asked the question, and I thought about this. Said, "Are we the problem? We can't just play sports games as sports games. Not every game needs an RPG style story mode." So the RPG style story mode is what Nintendo did early on with Mario Golf on the handhelds, the Game Boy Mario Golf, the Game Boy tennis games all had RPG style stuff. And I don't know that RPGs are the answer, right? But I think that we may be the problem, because wait a minute, guys, this is an online multiplayer game. It does have some aspects that we can play online together. Isn't that enough? But in modern gaming, I don't think that is the case. I think the answer is no. when you look at games that are continually updating, continual, they continually have that carrot on the stick just dangling for us, it leaves us wanting more. And Cryptic asked the question. I'm not sure if you know more about this, but have they stopped supporting the game officially? I don't remember hearing anything about that. And uh, I believe the last update was the last one. So let's see. We'll open up a Nintendo Life article real quick. It looks like Nintendo has finished with the big character adding updates for Strikers Battle League after Bowser Jr. and Birdo were added back in December 2022. This doesn't mean, however, the game will sit update free for the rest of time, as proven by Nintendo's latest patch to remove some pesky crashes. It looks like there were a couple of bugs that came up recently. While the notes do not officially state the lineups were a problem for the game, the issues appear to have now been fixed, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know that there's been anything stated officially, but other than, that we're not getting any more characters. So if that is the, and I mean, again, Nintendo can surprise us, you guys. Look at Super Mario Party. Forever we said this game is lacking online. Why doesn't it have online? Why aren't we? And then boom, we got online. Servant says, but Nintendo isn't modern gaming. They're a different market share and business model than PlayStation and Xbox. They are. They are, but at the same time, they need to have a finger on the pulse of what people are after, and they need to look at what games are doing well on their system anyway. Monster Hunter being one of them, continually giving us incredible content updates. Nintendo gets to flex those brand muscles, right? They get to say, look, we put Mario on something, people are going to buy it. It's going to take them fumbling a few more times for people to go, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. And it's frustrating as a fan of not only the series that of these sports games, but just as a Nintendo fan period, that like that we're seeing that happen. There was a level of connection that Iwata and Reggie had with the fans, even though it was a terrible time in Nintendo's history when it came to their console. When it was the DS and the 3DS and stuff were relatively successful, especially the DS. But there was still kind of it felt like there was a connect. Did they have mishaps? Of course, the whole Wii U was a mishap. Were there games that weren't great? Yeah, look at Wii Music. There were games that still just didn't hit. But when they have games that have a track record of being great, and then we see this, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Cryptic says, I do want to give a shout out to Army Life. What's going on? Good to see you. Cryptic says, even Splatoon 2 and 3 had a better idea of what online multiplayer needs to have, and surprised too, they did not look at that as a baseline of what fans are looking for. Exactly this. And I'm glad you brought up Splatoon, because it was something that I thought about while I was preparing for this. Splatoon is giving us free battle passes, essentially, right? And I know that takes work, and that takes a team, and that they've got DLC coming out for this, so that can help fund some of these seasons that they're doing. But when it comes to Strikers, as much as I would love to see, like, give me a reason to jump in each month, give me exclusive items to unlock, like dangle that carrot, right? It could have been built into the game ahead of time. This month, if you play this amount of matches, you unlock this. If you miss it, you miss it. This month, if you play this amount of matches, you unlock this. It gives us reason. It gives us a built-in season pass, if you will. So, and yes, looking at Splatoon and Splatoon 2 and 3, I think they're knocking it out of the park with that. look, guys, for me, all they had to do was add a Super Nintendo and an NES, and I think there's other consoles you can like put in your locker or whatever. Guess who played Splatoon with Crawler and Johnny and Cheesy on Thursday night after we got done recording? This guy, right? Because I got to run around with the Super Scope for one game, and then I was like back to my Zapper. But that kind of stuff, like, that gets me. Like, I want that kind of stuff. What if there was a locker? It's a sports game. What if Strikers had a locker that you could unlock just some different cosmetic things similar to Splatoon, where you could throw a GameCube in there or throw a statue of Waluigi throwing his throwing his animation from the first game. Like, just some cool stuff like that just gives us reason to keep going back. Crawler says it's just sad that the 3 sports titles on Switch have all been so bad with little support and weak online. And I mean, I I I agree strongly with Strikers. Super Rush, I was definitely lacking, but I still played it more than I played Strikers because there was still plenty to do just kind of by myself. Aces, I think I'm the odd man out when it comes to Aces because I still would like randomly lay in bed and like before I fell asleep play a few tournaments on Aces because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the mechanics of it. Like I was kind of bummed out when they nerfed everything a little bit, but I thought Aces was the strongest out of the 3. And again, when it comes to having fun, one of my best memories on the Switch playing Aces with Crawler, and he didn't realize he was serving, and his character is just like dancing back and forth. He's waiting for somebody to serve, and he's the one that's supposed to be serving. We all laughed so hard. Like it's it's they create for those moments that are just that are fantastic. So taking a look here at so from Servant here, it says, do we think it's a coincidence that the best sports games were on the worst selling Nintendo consoles? Does the success of the Switch allow them to halfway do sports titles just to appease the sports crowd? And that, I mean, that is very possible, but it's it's some of the best effort went into the games that were on the Wii to try to move the systems. Do they need these sports titles to move systems? Probably not. But would they if 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 everybody was hyped about it and they were talking about it and it it, they just were received better? Seeing what is probably the strongest of all the sports titles from Nintendo, which I would say is probably Strikers in my opinion, end up with a 7 point, like a 4.4 from users and a 73 from critics. It just doesn't seem acceptable. And there was just not a lot of reason to even go back to this game. And it's really unfortunate. So, well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time today to hang out with me. Real quick, this is going to go out immediately. If any of you guys are local to the Seattle area, I am going to be in Bellevue for the Pokemon Day today, the Pokemon Go Community Day. And I know a handful of listeners are going to be there hanging out. So if you are able to make it, it is going to be a little bit wet out there, but we're gonna have a good time. So if you are going to be there in Bellevue, make sure to come say hi to me. I'd be stoked. Nate says, I think our brains are a little warped with games now. GameCube, N64 and stuff. We didn't get any updates or patches. Yeah, and I mean that kind of ties into what I mentioned earlier with Servant's comment too. Like we the the landscape of gaming has changed to where like online was a novelty where we were like, yo, this is incredible. We get to play with our friends no matter where they live. And it's just, as gaming has evolved, so have our expectations of what games should have. So and again, like I sound like a broken record. Strikers is fun. It is fun, but they didn't even but but listening and going back and looking at why, like, cuz I wanted a better understanding of why did people dislike this game so much? What was actually lacking, because I didn't have experience with Charged, right? And Charged is an example of Nintendo having an extremely successful console and then putting out an incredible sports game, and then we're seeing the opposite on the Switch. So, Cryptic says, "Thanks for making this topic. It was fun, and I liked hearing everybody's opinions." Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we love these games, which is why I love talking about them and taking these deeper dives into some of these things, you know. And I need help from you guys too. I'm letting you know right off the bat, like, I want, if there's topics you want covered, I'm doing these single topic shows with chat so that you guys have your voices heard. You guys can share your thoughts and opinions. And I want to start putting maybe I'll throw a Google Doc in the Discord that we can put topics in, because um it's just kind of fun to dive into these single topics. And a lot of it I'm pulling from, like, you know, what happened today in Nintendo's history. I'll pull from that. And then if you guys, the community, has specific community topics they want me to cover as well, um, it's it's just a lot of fun looking at it this way. So I appreciate you guys so much for being here with me live. If you are listening after the fact, thank you guys so much. Remember, you can subscribe on Apple or Spotify for ad-free listening. That means every episode that goes out, you will not have to listen to a single ad. And I'm on track right now for a minimum 2 episodes a day, and I'm pushing for even more. So, uh, if you don't want to have to hear any ads and have hours of content, just subscribe there on Apple or on Spotify. So, much love, everybody. Thanks again, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys in Bellevue for the Pokemon Go Day. Bye now.